some people are of the idea that some people build personal brand and forget to build real careers. So you see someone on Twitter, 100K followers, you employ them, 0K productivity. All right. So we thought, it's important to bring on people that really understand what it means to do the two together, or people who feel it's not even necessary. So a round of applause as I bring on stage Safola Jomi, is the CEO and founder of Real Estate Egghead. All right. Next on the panel is Elsie Godwin, the co-founder of Cashwise Finance. Okay, and finally we have Wayne Me Baba, people and culture professional. All right, great. I think everyone is well seated now. All right. Thank you so much, my panelists, for joining me on this panel. All right. So I, for one, actually, my questions on, I think I am for personal branding, right? But I have this, it's good to post things on Twitter, on Instagram, post your work, and then people are like, yeah, nice stuff, good, this, that. And at the back of my mind, I'm like, not that good, Jerry, people are whining. But I also think it's important because I do things that I think it's worthwhile for people to know about. But then after posting them, I start feeling, was this really necessary? A lot of thoughts that go through my mind. So before I start asking individual questions, right? I want to know, let's start with Elsie. What are your thoughts on personal branding? Okay.
Hi. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for inviting me. So when it comes to personal branding, I think it's very important for every young person out there because this is now a global village. We've gone past the time where you're saying, I'm looking for a job, and then your opportunity is probably just, oh, I live in Ikeja, let's look for something around Ikeja, or I live on the island, I want to be somewhere that is very close to where I live. No, remote work is happening, right? Companies are poaching talents because there is a gap in skills, even especially in tech. So definitely personal branding is what sets you apart and ensure that you are seen, recognized, and even gets your foot to the door. I know you said something about people posting amazing things, but they can't meet up. There is also I think we have a HR person on this panel. There's also a problem with the expectation that companies have when they employ people, right? You employ a person that is supposed to be a product manager, but all of a sudden you want the person to be a marketer because they have a number of following on social media. You want them to use their platform to just join the marketing team, put out content. But what you're doing is taking them away from what they're actually supposed to do and pushing them into another territory that is sort of new to them, because the fact that everybody can post doesn't mean that everybody is a marketer, right? The fact that you have a good personal brand, which sometimes we have people who actually employ people like me to help them build their personal brand. So you're seeing this content, you're seeing them everywhere. You're seeing they probably have a newsletter, they probably have a way to tell their story for every encounter they have, and you think they are the ones doing it. It's not. It's a job, right? It's a profession on its own. People are brand builders, right? So personal branding is very important. It's how you build your public perception. It's how you want people to see you. It's a combination of your experience, your skill, and your value. So I'll leave it at that for now.
All right. Very interesting stuff. I have some follow-ups to that, but we'll come back to that later. So Waimi, what are your thoughts on personal branding?
Hi, everyone. Good morning. So I'm the resident HR expert on this panel. Okay, my thoughts on personal branding. I definitely think that there's potentially a lot that you can leverage from having a good personal brand. There are opportunities that can come to you as a result of having a good personal brand. I will say as a HR person, the reality is that having a solid personal brand is perhaps more important for certain career paths than for others. I will also say that as you go higher in your career and become more senior, then not only does networking become more important, but being seen as a thought leader in your field also helps you towards that journey on mastery, referring to the charts that was posted earlier by the earlier speaker. So it depends. I would say it depends on your role. It depends on your industry. In certain industries, it's really not that important. My first industry when I joined the workforce was oil and gas. It's not that important in that space, I will be honest with you. In tech, is it important? The simple answer is yes. More important for certain roles than others. Gets more important as you climb higher in your career. But I will also say that there's definitely a balance that needs to be made, right? You should not abandon developing your skills and expertise in your field at the expense of putting in that time and effort into building your personal brand. There has to be a balance somewhere. And I'll speak more on that a bit later, but these are my general thoughts on personal brand.
All right. Thank you very much, Wayemi. I already know Savola Jomi is big on personal branding. Interestingly, I found Savola Jomi on Instagram. He's an engineer, right? Okay, I think I should be specific. He's not the kind of engineer you would think, not software engineer, like an actual engineer. I think civil engineering also. So I found it on Instagram and I was like, okay, this is interesting. You usually only see people, the developers and creating content online. And then I saw his content and I was like, okay, this is quite interesting. So it will be also interesting to know what your thoughts are on personal brand.
I think, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I think my online persona is an active representation of why personal branding is good. Now, if your personal brand sifts through whatever culture imbalance or incompatibility you can have with any prospective employer. For example, if they know you as pragmatic, they know you as, loud spoken, you understand? When you get an offer for an employment, so to speak, the HR can easily tell from what they already see about you that this person is a fit for our culture, this person is not. So that way it helps you to, clear a path and, stay focused on what is best for you in the industry. Now, apart from that, personal branding is like salt to your soup. You already have a very good, background. Your skill set is solid. You have good EQ, good IQ. When you add your personal brand on top of that, it may stand you apart. It gives you an unfair advantage above, everyone else, which is what everyone needs, to get ahead, to charge more, to stand out. If 4 of us here have an interview, maybe with Dr. Michael Ogu, and he has only their CVs, but he has, more information about me. It tends to lean towards me. Even when I make mistakes, it gets to, give me a second chance to actually, prove myself more. Now, when you now finally do get the job, that one is a totally different ball game. But in order to get your foot into the door, I think your personal brand helps a lot.
Okay. So let me stay on you for a while, right? Waymi said something about personal branding being important in the industry or sector that you are, right? So for your sector, right, for your industry, how important is it? And for you personally, you've been doing it, right? What has changed? What are those success stories, or what have you noticed? What are those career shifts that you've seen since you started it?
For me, my personal brand has been the entire reason why I've been able to be successful in real estate development. You can't easily explain to someone why your property may be 100 million when somebody else's own is 70. It's not usually easy to make your case. But when your personal brand shows that this is the way you do this certain type of things, it's easy for them to justify that reason. My first 5 sales when I joined Instagram came from the fact that this guy knows what to say. You understand? This guy seems to, be diligent in what he does. And when they got to know me better, because that was like the first contact points for me. When they got to know me better, they found out that this is actually what he embodies in real life, which helped a lot. So personal branding has always been my unfair advantage above every other developer out there.
Interesting. But has there been any downside? Like, is there any downside to personal branding in your sector or generally?
For me, I'm an introvert. Getting stopped on the road and saying, I think that is the only downside I have. But generally, it helps to, get my foot in the door in most places.
All right. Thank you very much, Sam. So Elsie, right? I think it's already clear that you are big on personal branding. It's what you actually do. But then I see some people do personal brand, right? They're very active on social media. And then, especially Twitter, right? There are a lot of crazy people on Twitter. You post something and then fight starts. So it's important how do you retain that level of professionalism? Because you might do something, you post it, someone starts saying something about it, and you can't hold it, you can't control yourself. And before you know it, there's a long thread of, people giving themselves gas boosts on Twitter. How do you retain that level of professionalism while building a good personal brand on social media?
So for every social media platform, there is should I say, spirit behind it. You have to understand the spirit and tread carefully, right? When it comes to Twitter, X now, right? It's the violence headquarters. You say A, and that A can be turned to something else, and even in ways that you did not think about that A being perceived, right? So you have to be careful of what you put out. You have to think about it from different perspective. If you have a team around you, or even just amazing friends, run your content by them and let them tell you what they think about the content, not what you think. Because there's something we say in communication. You communicate when people understand what you're trying to tell them, not when you assume that they understand, right? So you have to ensure that you're putting out the right content. And again, we have the whole Gen Z and millennial thing. I was going to ask earlier if you're a millennial or Gen Z.
I'd rather not say.
Why? Okay, so I'm asking because when you said earlier about putting out something that you feel like...
I'm a millennial, by the way.
And you feel like, why do I have to put this out? It's just a normal job. A lot of millennials battle with that because we grew up in the workspace understanding that your work should speak for you. But you see a Gen Z that maybe all they would do in this event is to share bottled water. The way they would tell the story of sharing that bottled water, you begin to feel like without them, everybody would have died of thirst, right? They will sell themselves so much so that if I'm going to have an event next, I want that person to come and share bottled water in my event. And I'm beginning to see like a course around bottled water. So it's important to understand that we also, even not just female, and I know when we're talking about imposter syndrome, we only attribute it to female, right? But men do have imposter syndrome as well. And a lot of millennials have imposter syndrome when it comes to personal branding because we just want to do the work and earn our pay and just rest, right? But you need to understand that you are in competition with these people. These people, not disrespect, Gen Z are part of us, but when the job role is open, they're going to hire the best, not because of your age. Nobody's going to discriminate against gender, except you're working in a company that doesn't have that HR value and policy set in place. It's not about your age, it's not about your gender. It's about who is coming to get the job done, right? So it's important for you to be able to do that. But going back to your question, you have to be very sure of what you're putting out and be ready to defend it. I tell people there's nothing I've put out ever that I won't be able to defend. It's possible that my view might have evolved because, my personal branding journey started when I didn't even know what personal branding was all about, right? I started from having a blog and I've done media broadcasting, social media. I'm in tech now. I'm doing everything, right? And I remember the speaker before we came on said something about him being an MC doing XYZ. But it's also important for you to be able to know where to draw the line, regardless of the fact that you want to make all the money and want to be everywhere. Just 2 days ago, I was reached out to say, I like to be an MC for an event. I'm like, nah, I like to just stay in the moderating space. it's not like I don't want the money, right? But I have really checked out myself, how I want to be perceived, my authenticity. Do I really want to be an MC for an event? Except it's extremely necessary that I have to be, I'd rather just let it go. So you have to have clear rules. You have to have clarity. You have to understand that for every word you're putting out, there's going to be multiple interpretation. And when you're building your personal brand, also think about the platform you want to stay on. LinkedIn is just the best, right? Because we know we are all professional there, right? Instagram, yes, your image, your personality, you can put a bit of that. But Twitter, it's not on everything that you put out. Even if it's your industry, even if it's your profession, there's always three sides to every story, right? Somebody will come out and sew one long thread. You follow the long thread and give your opinion, bang, 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 bang. And then after that opinion, you realize that, okay, this person came out and the person was lying, or it wasn't the entirety of the story. And you cannot then go back to take it back. You've created a PR nightmare for yourself because you're trying to have an opinion on something that wasn't really your business. So define what you want to get involved in. You don't have to have an opinion on everything. You can actually stay a long time without tweeting, just like and retweet. I know like and retweet got some people into trouble with this time, but I mean, just thread carefully. That's the most important part.
Okay, so I have a follow-up to that millennial Gen Z conversation, right? But millennial like me, I only want to post what I do when I think it's, when you think it's really, really, really big, like you've done something really amazing, like, you first go to Google Docs, you edit, you send to people, check it, is it good, do this, do that, and then you want to post it because you think it. So how do you define that, because I think, I don't know if it's true for all millennials, but I think we tend to overthink things sometimes, right? So how do you just do things, how do you become spontaneous about personal branding and not be so, because because I do that so many times. I see something that I've done that is really amazing, and then I think about, okay, how do I want to do this? How do I want to say this? How does this sound good? And then I think, and I end up not doing it, right? So how do you, because it's also important to be careful, like you said, right? To know what to put mouth, or not to put mouth, what to put out. And then I start thinking, so how do I build that sense of spontaneity in putting my work out?
I think being careful also negates the word spontaneity. She said something earlier about as you climb on in your career, then it becomes even more important. And also as you climb on, it's not everything you really want to share. You just want to share those things that are really important for your brand. But at the same time, I would not advise being too spontaneous. It's always good to be able to take a pause and understand what you're putting out and how you're putting it out. Also, what would make you want to take that pause is because you probably have a certain way that you want your content to be put out, especially if it's a video content for Instagram. You want your editing to be good. You want to just be seen in a certain way. That can take time, right? So I'm not a big fan of spontaneity when it comes to personal branding. But it is also important to not overly question these things and ensure that, your post doesn't have to be like 300 words. Your caption can be just 50 words, just straight to the point, when it comes to journalism, they'll tell you the who, where, when, all those things, right? They still come to play, right? Just use that to write something out and tell, oh, this is what happened, this is what I achieved, this is how it went, and this is how I felt about it. And that's just it, right? So spontaneity, just find the balance. That's what I would say.
All right, awesome. Yeah, for millennials like me, find the balance, like you said. All right, so now the conversation about some people just want to, post how they feel, how they, like she said, the Gen Zs, right? No offense. They just want to put stuff out. But then some should organizations have a say in how because you're representing who you work for, right? Wherever you are. So how much of a say should they have, or should they just leave employees to go about personal branding the way they want?
Okay, so the simple answer to that is it depends, right? It depends on a number of different things. So the reality is that, for one, your position and seniority definitely matters, right? So one could argue that you're doing these things perhaps on your personal time, the social media pages or handles are yours. However, the reality is that if, for example, you're somebody in a senior position in a well-known organization and you get into a Twitter fight online, it's not a good look, both for you and for your organization, right? So imagine if you're a marketing director in, for example, Coca-Cola, and you know how on LinkedIn, people sometimes repost stories of other people and then they draw inference and write their own content around it. So can you imagine somebody who is a marketing director in Coca-Cola reposting a story about maybe a success story that happened in Pepsi and trying to use that to draw an inference? It's your personal social media page. It's not Coca-Cola's page, but it's not a good look for you, for your brand, for your business. So there's a reason why certain organizations will exercise some degree of, I don't want to use the word control, but they will pay attention. They will restrict some of the kind of content you can put out, and they will pay attention to what employees are putting out on social media. So, for example, things like trade secrets of the organization are just, they may not want certain information about their business out there, for example. There's a large tech company, for example, that you're not even allowed to post and tell people that you work there because their selling point is their innovation, right? A couple years ago during the pandemic, we all saw a day in the life of a tech worker videos that were trending all over TikTok. There's a certain big tech company, if you notice, you never saw any of their employees doing that video, right? It's a hardware company. They are known for innovation. That's what has given them an edge. You would never have seen any employee of that company. You see of other big techs, but not that company. And it's because of their social. So some will make you sign agreements regarding your use of social media. It may seem a bit excessive, but really it depends on the company and what they are trying to protect. But again, there needs to be a balance because you cannot excessively control what people put out there on social media. But for some companies, it really is in their best interest. You also, as an individual, you have to exercise wisdom and caution. And I think that perhaps, again, specifically for Gen Z, because you're young, right? You're young, you're still trying to figure out who you are. You're still trying to understand the workspace while you're building your personal brand. I think it gets a bit easier as you get older because as you get older, you've gained experience. You become more aware of yourself, more self-aware. You know who you are. You have clarity about what you want to do. You know that, okay, I'm not an MC, I'm a moderator, using the example you give. And so building a personal brand, perhaps, even though you struggle with the idea of it as millennials, you struggle with the idea of it, but you know who you are. So when you eventually overcome that bias, it's easier for you to communicate. But for Gen Z, they are still learning, right? And they are also still figuring out the rules of the workplace for some of them, for the really young ones that are just coming out. So you don't want to kill that creativity. So depending on the kind of business you are, if you're a business where perhaps it could be a good look for you to have employees who are out there and building a personal brand, perhaps it makes you look like, you hire right. Perhaps they are able to give a certain amount of buzz about your products that you want out there. So it's really about finding a balance. There's no easy answer to your question. I would say it comes down to the company, what they are trying to achieve, what they are trying to protect, the position of the individual, the seniority level. But in all, you just have to exercise caution. The reality is this, people have lost their jobs over things they wrote on Twitter. Not just senior people, even people have lost jobs, okay? You think it's your personal Twitter account, but you're expressing a view that the last speaker spoke about the increasing importance of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Many people in the tech space, young people in Gen Z is right, are looking for remote jobs with international companies. They don't joke with those things. So you go and you make a comment on Twitter about your views about maybe a certain group of people, a certain ethnicity, or people with a certain gender identity, and you feel like you're expressing your personal views, it's your personal Twitter account. People have lost opportunities over that. People who were being considered for roles, they go and they check your Twitter or your Facebook and they're like, no, this is not the kind of, you are not a good look for our organization. People have shared personal thoughts and comments about what they think about social issues. And the company has been forced to let them go, regardless of their performance, right? So it's easy to also think that companies are being a bit excessive in trying to control your social media usage. But we also live, there's this thing called cancel culture, unfortunately. I think it's unfortunate. But it's the reality. So sometimes your organization too might be put under pressure to take action because of something you said on your personal social media account. They don't like being put in that position. Organizations don't want to lose good talents because in a moment of carelessness, you expressed a thought that probably a lot of people hold that same thought, but it's no longer politically correct to say such things. So that's why you see that some companies are having policies about social media and trying to control even what looks like your own personal use of it. It's because we now live in a global world. There's changes in the demographic, in the workforce, in the expectations of how you should behave in public. Social media can really showcase your strengths, but it can also put you in a lot of trouble. So that's
All
my
right.
answer.
Thank you very much, Waymi. So Safolajobi, you're your own boss, right? And you're very active on social media. I want to know how you handle these things when people say something that that might just make your head go like, what's this person talking about, right? How do you handle those situations?
As for me, DJ Copy is somebody already up. Can you hear me?
Yeah, okay, we can use
DJ Copy has always been somebody I looked up to for having a thick skin on the internet. She might be singing a song you do not like, and people come for her, and most of the time she just ignores. Same with me. I am a pro thick skin type of person. If you cannot take insults from people, you cannot be in any important leadership position. You must be able to take it and just dust it off because it's nothing. There was a scenario where I put something on the internet. I was talking about the quality of steel in construction, and I mentioned thermomechanically treated steel, which is TMT. And somebody came for me and said, he's an architect of 15 years, and TMT means imported. And I was shocked for like 2 seconds, and I just scrolled past because there was no point. You understand? So, in my own opinion, thick skin is the best way forward.
just ignore. All right. So when you say something about knowing who you are, right? I mean, personal brand means building that unique identity, right? That people know you for. When you said we know millennials know who they are, right? Me, I don't know who I am. How do you find that identity, right? How do you decide, okay, this is the niche, right? This is who I want to be known for on Twitter, right? How do you look within yourself and say, okay, based on this is based on the kind of work I do, kind of the results I get, my level of productivity, I think this is who I am. How do you find that? That's for Olajomi.
For me,
Yeah. How were you able to do that?
I think the question again.
Okay. So the question is basically, how do you decide the kind of person you want to be known for, right? How do you create that unique identity for yourself when people see your handle or this, or when people want to call for events, for speaking, they already know, oh, this person will fit perfectly here. It's because you've been able to, based on what you've been producing on social media, they can say, okay, this person will be perfect for this type of panel, for this kind of event. So how do I build my identity? How do I decide, okay, this is who I want to be on social media?
The simple answer is get the life coach. But the longer answer that comes from experiences, you have to, go to a place where you are alone and, talk to yourself. Tell yourself the truth. Who are you? You understand? If you, in your early 20s or your late teens, you might not really, know. But after a while, maybe after going for maybe 4 or 5 overnight parties, the 6th one, you tell yourself, I'm not a night party person. You understand? You tell yourself, you talk to yourself, tell yourself who you are. Now, when you've already decided that this is the type of person I am, you now pick something you want to focus on and make your personal brand around that. A lot of people don't know that while I was learning in school, I was a graphic designer. I live and breathe almost all Adobe softwares. I'm that good, but it is not something I wanted to be known for. Same with, there was a time in my life where I was a photographer, videographer, all that. I didn't focus on that. But over time, I realized that I enjoyed construction much more. I think that was like 5-6 years ago. And I decided to go all in on that. Now, when I wanted to pick something to talk about on social media, I decided to choose something that the niche was unique and it sat well with me and it, fit who I am personally. So it was easy to just, pick that and focus on that.
Nice. Thank you very much. So we are rounding up now, but I think there are still some important questions I think we need to talk about, and the first one is for Elsie. I'm sure there are ethical, considerations when you're building your personal brand, right? I see some people do some underhanded things like use the fall or failures of others in their own industry or sector to like help themselves or try to dominate this space, right? What are those things that are ethically wrong, or just basically the ethical considerations, something people need to have behind their mind when they want to build a personal brand?
Okay, I also speak from a personal experience. You just have to be authentic. That's the beginning of your personal brand. And I guess it starts from the last question he just responded to, which is knowing yourself, understanding what you want to be known for, and then be authentic. You are allowed to evolve. It's not cast in stone, but with every point that you realize you have to evolve, you have to be authentic about it, right? Another one is honesty. It's not going to go down well for anyone who thinks that they would lie about their expertise or skills. I see that you're a big Twitter fan. So on Twitter, I'm sure you said, even in the tech space of, I think it was a guy who had this amazing portfolio of working with multiple companies and designing all their products, why he never worked with them, right? At the end of the day, it came out, right? It might take you far for a bit, but it's not going to last for a very long time. So you have to be authentic, you have to be honest, and you have to have clarity. I think those three would help you move forward.
Awesome. So moving from talking about authenticity and you being honest, because I remember you saying something somewhere about companies hiring rock stars, right? Do companies is it really something they look out for when they want to hire? Like, do they think, oh, this person needs to have at least 10K followers, used to be a very popular person? Are those things really important to companies when it comes to hiring talent?
Okay, so I'll be honest with you. Very rarely is there a position that comes up and the company is specifically thinking we are looking for someone who has a strong personal brand. What a strong personal brand can do is, like he rightly said, give you a foot in the door, right? Because aside from your CV, there's something else about you on the internet that showcases ideally who you are, your skill set. So that already gives you some sort of leverage and an advantage over the other candidate. Like I said, very rarely, except it's a requirement for your role, right? For this position, we want someone with a strong personal brand and it can help to market, push our image forward. So while it is not usually something that is a specific requirement for most roles, if you have a good personal brand, it can give you an edge. It can make you stand out. It can already put a positive impression about you in the minds of the interviewers, such that you're having an interview and already it's like they are assuming you are competent, and that interview is you either proving or disproving that assumption. As against for someone without a strong personal brand, where they are coming in with a blank mind and they don't know what to think about you.
All right.
Can I add something to that? So I think that HR people have a bit of bias to people with also, you call them rock star, there's a term you used. And so it also means that for everything you put out about yourself, you have to take out time to build yourself and have that skill. because there's already an expectation. I'm going to interview Elsie Godwin. If somebody else who doesn't have a strong brand is on that interview, they probably will have a lot of expectation of that person. But once it's Elsie Godwin, all the terms that are supposed to be known in the marketing space, they expect that is in your head, and you cannot mess up. There's already this high expectation that you have to meet. So as you're building that personal brand, you have to also take out time to also build your skill, build your expertise. One thing I do that I'll advise people to do is to hug Coursera, right? You don't even have to pay most of the time. There are free courses, but just always brush up. Whatever industry you're in, ensure that you're just take out a weekend, take out some time and just listen and read and learn. Because sometimes you feel that because you've also passed that level and you're not practicing some of these things every day, you might not have them at top of your mind every time. But if you can put in the work and brush up yourself from time to time, it will really help you, because as you're building that personal brand, the expectation of you is just going way high. To be honest, this is from experience.
Thank you very much. So balance. Please, a round of applause for my panelists. They've been amazing.
Can I just quickly?
All right.
Sorry, to add to what she said, she's absolutely spot on. And you were trying to reference something I said at an earlier talk I had. And what I actually said there was avoid flashy rock stars, right? Because there are people who are so good with personal branding. We've seen it in the tech space, it's unbelievable. They come in and they are terrible at the job. They cannot do it. Yes, we've seen that. And because their personal brand is so strong, a lot of times they are able to come in and demand a high salary. And you bring them in and they cannot do the work. It's terrible. It's not a good look for you as an organization, because it looks like perhaps you bypass other people within the company because they didn't have a flashy brand, and you're paying this person so much more, but other people are having to pick up the slack. So what I had said during that speech is, aside from personal branding is great, but do your research and ask questions about this person. Find out what their work ethic is like and make sure they can actually do the work.
So, all right. So, Safola Jamli, what are your final, if you could give the audience one advice when it comes to personal branding, what would it be?
Stay truthful.
Stay truthful. Nice one. What do you mean?
Don't oversell yourself.
Thank you. And Elsie?
Okay, so mine will be a bit long. There's something I saw while I was reading up yesterday. I think it was just on Instagram scrolling through. So somebody's handle. I think it's Omawo Me now, if I'm not mistaken. She runs a PR company. And she wrote something about ABCD of personal branding, right? A for her is appearance. Wherever you're going to ensure that you look the part. It's very important. Also look the way you want to be addressed and how you want to be perceived. And B is behavior. Most times your first impression is very important. You might not get a chance to read through that. So ensure that you are your best behavior. Speak politely, respect people. It's not about just being the gatesman, or you have to just respect people. They are people first, right? C is communication. Be clear with your communication. And D is your digital footprint, which is what we are all talking about here, right? Ensure that your personal brand, you don't have to go over the board. Just have a bit of consistency everywhere and find a way, even if it's just one post you have, tailor it to LinkedIn, tailor it to Instagram, tailor it to Twitter if you want. That's your preferred platforms, and ensure that you just have that strong digital footprint that would get your foot into the door. Like she said, don't oversell yourself, but just be there, have a balance.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you very much. A round of applause for my panelists. I'm sure it was a very, very, very interesting panel. Yes, please keep clapping for them, right, while they come off stage.